might not be loud enough to hit.
This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 503, recorded on Wednesday, February 25th, 2015. Do you bathroom? Hey everyone, I am Dr. Kiki, and today we will fill your head with a big old black hole, different frequencies, and bathrooms for ants. But first...
Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. Today is a day that lives in scientific infamy. Well, it's one of the days of scientific infamy anyhow. For it was this day, February 25th, 1616. Back in a time when theological beliefs were treated as law and having opinions against or simply beyond the understanding of the church could lead to imprisonment, death, or worse. That by order of Pope, science was to be censored on this day, specifically the propositions made by Galileo, that the sun and not the earth is at the center of our solar system, and that the earth moves. Pope Paul V chose Inquisitor Lord Cardinal Bellarmine to summon Galileo, admonish him for his discovery, and warn him against teaching it to others. Galileo famously recanted his discovery, his life's work, and admitted it as heresy. The fact that 16 years previous, Giordano Bruno was summoned on similar charges of teaching a heliocentric solar system could not have escaped Galileo's decision to recant. The fact that Giordano Bruno was imprisoned when he refused to recant his understanding of the universe could not have escaped Galileo's decision to recant. The fact that Giordano Bruno further refused to recant his understanding of the universe while imprisoned and was then hung upside down naked in a town square with an iron spike through his tongue and set on fire while still alive could not have escaped Galileo's decision to recant. The fact that Cardinal Bellarmine and the then Cardinal and now Pope both sat in judgment over Giordano Bruno in his trial that ended in torture and death could not have escaped Galileo's decision to recant. The fact that the church was ignorant of the heavens, censored one of the greatest contributors to scientific progress, and committed horrible acts of torture and retribution for speaking the truth could not have escaped their decision to canonize Cardinal Bellarmine, making him a saint in 1930. On this day, February 25th, 1616, the order was given to censor one of the greatest scientific minds the world has ever known. And on this day, 399 years later, we celebrate their failure to do so on This Week in Science. Coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind I can't get enough. I want to learn everything. I want to fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I want to know what's happening. What's happening? What's happening this week in science? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening this week in science?
Good science to you, Kirsten and Blair.
Good science to you, Justin and Blair, and everyone out there in the visible world. It's good to be heard, good to be seen or not seen, as it were. Happy Day of Science, everyone. We have tons of science news stories for you. I've got some dust in the skies making rain. I've also got a big old black hole and some crazy brain frequencies. What do you have, Justin?
I have a sewer of science, a carnivorous gene, an evolutionary clock, and why empathy is bad in marketing.
And Blair?
Oh, let's see. I have allergies. I have ant bathrooms. I have scrunchies on cats. And I have the strongest thing in the known biological universe.
Whoa. Whoa. I can't wait to find out more about that. That's got to be strong, man. There's some strong stuff out there. Are we ready for science news, you guys?
So ready.
So be it. All right, everyone. A quasar was discovered in the Sloan Digital Sky Survey by an international team of researchers, among them researchers from the Australian National University. Team members said they picked this particular quasar because of its reddish hue, and it was a very distinctive red color, also very, very bright object in the sky. They chose it from over 500 million objects in the northern skies. And then looking at it, they ended up finding that this quasar hid a gigantic black hole. It's a huge black hole. Gigantic
How
black
big
hole.
was it?
Like 12 billion times as massive as the sun.
That's on a scale of large objects in the universe. That's got to be up there on the big end, because that's pretty supermassive.
Big is a good word for it. Big.
I don't even know if big is. Big isn't even. I don't think we have a word big enough that fits how big that is.
Yeah, it's so big, actually. It's causing some of these researchers to question our theories of black hole formation, because this black hole, which is at the center of the quasar, the reason that we see the quasar is actually this huge bright cloud of this jet of material that's being sucked into this black hole that's at the center. As it gets heated up, all the light shoots out and pushes away from the material, and that's what we see. This quasar is pumping out a million billion times the energy of our sun. That's how we know how massive this black hole is. And this black hole is so big for the age of it, because we're able to look at how far away it is or how far back in time it is. For the early age of the universe, they're like, how did it get that much material? How on earth is such a giant black hole hanging out there? It should not be there. It should not be possible. But then that's the universe, folks.
So can we just ignore it and pretend we didn't see this actually happening? Is that a possibility? Keep the information that changes what we believed was going on or possible? Just ignore it. I mean, we can unsee this, can't we?
No.
That's not how science works.
What? Yeah, what? Dude.
Dude.
So instead of ignoring it, what researchers are going to do is take a closer look at it and try and figure out what possibly could have led to the growth of this giant black hole. Where could this mass have come from? So was there a reason that there might have been many big stars close together that could have been coming together to create this giant collapsing massive area that's now a black hole? The first stars were probably giants, so maybe everything was super dense and everything smushed up a lot and you got this big one. But that's, I don't know. The one idea is if two or more galaxies merged together really early on, and their black holes became one with each other. But they're thinking that it would have been imbalanced unless both black holes were of exactly the same mass, the same size. It's just the scenarios just are not rising to the occasion yet. So researchers are going, this is something we need to take a look at. And there was actually another study this week that I didn't bring the link for, but the study suggested that dark matter might be involved directly in the creation of black holes, and that dark matter might form a lot of that mass that we don't see. It wouldn't actually form the light that comes from a quasar. So maybe there was some amount of dark matter that was there in the beginning.
See, there's the dark matter again, just explaining things we don't understand.
There you go.
Scientists are just constantly going, we don't know how this works. It's probably dark matter related. Sure, yeah, the dark matter did it.
No,
Mhm.
but see,
Yep.
they have evidence that dark
I
matter
know.
is involved in the formation of black holes, and I'm putting these two stories together. Other researchers have not. This is me going, well, they don't have another explanation, so maybe there was a lot of dark matter. So I'm putting two stories together. But all of this is more research needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe we're talking about a denser area of the universe where a galaxy with 12 billion 12 billion solar masses that fall into a black hole just puts a dent in the thing.
Exactly.
We can't judge others by our own experience. We're out in the rural, itty bitty, desolate farm roads of the universe out here where the Milky Way is. Extremely rural territory. We're lucky if we get the post service here, let alone we're not getting internet. We're not getting cable. We're so far out, there's no way. And then we look at a solar system, or excuse me, a galaxy that's got like New York City kind of population, and we're just completely floored by it, right? We just can't imagine how something like that could have ever happened. But yeah, there's parts of this universe that we haven't explored that'll probably even dwarf this black hole. I mean, there are likely much more
Absolutely.
dense formations of energy and suns and planets going way, 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 way back.
And the possibility of, two equally sized galaxies or black holes merging. I mean, this is a big universe. The probability is, even if it's like in 1 billionth probability, it's possible.
Mhm.
Yeah, we can just
Definitely.
actually be
So-
rather thankful that the solar system that we've got is in a galaxy that is in a very rural. We're in a rural part of a our solar system's in a rural part of a galaxy that's in a sort of rural area of space. There
It's
are
good.
there are
It's great.
galaxies that have been crashing into each other. There's solar systems that smack into each other all the time.
Yeah,
And
and
the
it's
closer you are to the dense part of your galaxy, closer you are to the core of it, the more likely you could run into another solar system.
so it's good that we're not. But you know who's running into stuff? Plastic is running into corals.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Researchers in Australia, another Australian story, and neither of these studies are Australia bashing. Just so
Well,
you
if we can
know.
take it seriously, what's the story?
Great Barrier Reef researchers have found that many corals that are common in the Great Barrier Reef are eating microplastics.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So I was all ready to beat up the Australians for doing a bad study, but I know they are pretty serious about their coral reef. It's like their one thing. Like the United States we've got like the Grand Canyon, the Great Plains, we got the Mississippi River, we got all these landmarks and great historical and geological things all over the place. They've basically got that reef and nothing else.
that's right. So they've got this big reef that I'm going to talk about now. Dr. Mia Hugenboom, who's with the ARC Center of Excellence at the Coral Reef Studies at James Cook University, is saying that they're non-selective feeders. So when the plastics are present in these small sizes, they're going to eat them. And if the pollution increases, what's going to happen is they are going to filter these small particles into their stomach cavities, and they will fill with indigestible plastics. And so the concern is that this microplastic pollution is going to end up stuffing the corals and killing them. So the research that they did, they checked out inshore coral reefs, and they found after 2 nights of collection that the corals had eaten the plastics, and they eat them at rates only slightly lower than their normal rate of feeding on marine plankton. Plastic was deep inside the coral polyps, wrapped in digestive tissue, and so not actually being well digested. And so it's going to get in the way of the polyps digesting normal food.
Yeah, that's pretty problematic. I know a lot of people think that when we talk about how plastics break down and how long it takes for plastics to break down, they don't actually ever break down all the way.
Yeah.
Plastics don't ever turn into their initial components. They're always just tinier pieces of plastic. So they turn into these microplastics that potentially could pass through larger organisms, but yeah, in those little corals, that's a big problem. And corals are super important because they give us, depending on which figure you're looking at, it's pretty much always more than half of our oxygen that we breathe comes from coral reefs because of their zooxanthellae, because of their photosynthetic algae inside of them. So we definitely want to keep the coral from filling up on plastic. That could be problematic.
Yeah. So ideas that, some people are out there trying to engineer ideas, ways to filter plastics from the oceans. I mean, it's going to have to be a pretty big effort. But if we want marine life to persist, this is something that's very important. And then my last story for the beginning of the show is another really important thing that we need to persist: the Amazon rainforest. There's a recent review, a recent study, satellite imaging has been looking at the Amazonian rainforest and has found that even though the UN did a study and concluded that deforestation rates had decreased, doesn't look like it. When you actually look at it via satellite imaging, deforestation is occurring at an even more ramped up rate. It's happening even more.
So it's like 62% increase, right?
Yeah.
Versus the UN's report that it was a 25% decrease over that same period.
Yeah. So
which is an 87% shift in the other direction of where
from the UN.
Just using numbers, I think that math worked out.
Yeah. So it's the Amazon is kind of in trouble, but there's this other part of the Amazon that's really cool. It's rainforest, right? The rainforest we know is like the huge tall canopies of trees that we always think of as kind of having the wet clouds over them and this kind of damp cloud cover that keeps everything moist and fed with water. We've known for a while that there's a pathway through the atmosphere between the Saharan desert and the Amazon. But research that was just published in the Geophysical Research Letters says that there is phosphorus making the journey at the amount of 22,000 tons per year. This matches how much the Amazon loses from rain and flooding, approximately. Yeah. And this phosphorus is only about 0.08% of the 27.7 million tons of dust from the Sahara that settles in the Amazon yearly. 27.7 million tons of dust crosses the ocean and lands in the Amazon every year. And this dust, the particulate matter, is actually really, really important in helping to create the clouds, which help to create the rainfall and in the rainforests. It's all connected together. It's really interesting.
That's insane. That's
right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's just when you think about, these places and they're so disparate, but they're not. Our whole world is connected, and we get stuck in our own little day-to-day life, and you don't think about stuff like that. But if we keep cutting down the Amazon, it doesn't really matter. It won't matter anyway.
Yeah, between the corals and the Amazon, we're kind of messing up our whole breathing thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, it's they think this is the largest dust transport on the planet. It's very cool.
Well,
Phosphorus, fertilizing the Amazon, causing rain, helping rain. It's all good stuff. I love it. I love it. Justin, what you got?
Okay, so you can get a kind of register of perhaps your own health, generally, if you had a good sample of your gut microbes. But could you do the same thing for a larger population, say an entire city, with simply one sample? So this is the idea that somebody decided would be interesting to look into, and they did, and it was. This is out of Woods Hole, Massachusetts. A new study demonstrates that sewage from cities is an effective way of sampling fecal bacteria from millions of people all at once. And the information gleaned from the work provides an opportunity to monitor a large population set. What was kind of interesting, too, is, they could identify cities different from each other. I mean, each city had its own signature. You would sort of think once you've pooled millions of people's bacterial sewage samples, it would just sort of like be the same everywhere. You'd have the same levels of variation, this, that, and the other. But no, actually, they found there were pretty decent differences. They did this in 71 different cities. Collected samples from 71 cities, and they could actually guess between 81 to 89% accuracy a city's estimated level of obesity simply by analysis of the microflora found in their sewage. So now that they've sort of seen this, one of the potential things is they could sort of track, as levels change through a city, if it's a diet, if it's a lifestyle thing, if there's something that people in that city are doing differently than those of other cities. This is an interesting data point that they can look into further. And the next story I got is, this is pretty wild. Have you ever heard of the carnivorous bladderwort?
Can't say I have.
Yeah, I've not heard of the carnivorous bladderwort. I've heard of bladderwort as a plant.
Yes. Okay, so it's a plant that lives in seawater. It has no recognizable roots. It floats around. It's got these sort of weird branches that are coming out of, like, it sort of looks like a snail with a bunch of branches where you would expect the slug's head to be sticking out of. It's a really odd, or maybe an acorn with stringy branches sticking out at one end.
Odd.
It is carnivorous. It has vacuum pressure that it uses to gain its prey, as well as some miniature traps that it uses. And they did, this is out of the University of Buffalo, they looked at its genome and found that it has a really small genome, much smaller genome than well-known species of plants like grape, coffee, papaya. And yet, even though it has a smaller genome, there is more diversity within it. Comparison with the grape genome shows that that the bladderwort has, what is it? It's bladderwort genome holding roughly 80 million base pairs of DNA, is 6 times smaller than the grape, and yet the bladderwort is the species that has more genes, some 28,500 of them compared to only 26,300 for the grape. So what they've discovered about this little bladderwort is that it's got an intense ability to delete DNA. That it goes through phases of rampant DNA deletion, so that anything it's not using, boom, gone, see ya. It doesn't have as big a genome, but what it does have, what it has picked and held onto over time, is much more diverse than most plants. Even the Arabidopsis, the little plant that we study over and over, constantly in today. We're sending it to in space. We're going to put it on the moon.
Yeah.
This is it's much more diverse, even though it's got a smaller genome overall. So high gene turnover in this little plant, much more than they would have expected to see in anything.
Yeah, that's small.
Wonder
Yeah.
what that would look like in humanity if we were getting rid of genes that we weren't currently using.
We would be evolving and changing a lot rapidly. Like it would be rapid shifts in our population.
Part of what they're saying is it tends to get rid of the junk DNA or that DNA which isn't actively being used. So if it's not using it, it's deleting it. It's just getting it out of there. Like let's just keep everything on the books that we're actively using right now.
Well, we definitely would not be like us anymore.
No, we would be floating in the sea without roots.
That's right.
Such an odd little plant. And this is a story I like. This is an international team of scientists launching a fossil database. What they're basically doing is using the best sample fossils that they've got, that they have time dated, and creating an online database for this. This is the Fossil Calibration Database. Free open access resource, stores carefully vetted fossil data, and is the result of years of work from a worldwide team led by Dr. Daniel Kepska. Can't pronounce. Sepka? K-S-E-P-K-A. Your guess.
Kepska.
Curator of science at the Bruce Museum in Greenwich. So this is really pretty wild. We've got a pretty good idea of when stuff came about, but I'm sort of looking at this millions of years ago. Calibration based on fossil records of when things showed up. And some of it's pretty wild. Whale, 33.9 million years ago. Where would you put the penguin in that? Would you say the penguin is newer or older?
Older.
Okay, good guess. Penguin, 60.5 million years ago. Okay, kangaroo. More recent than the penguin, older than the penguin?
Older.
Much more recent even than the whale. They put the kangaroo at 15.97 million years ago.
I wonder if that's the same as the carnivorous saber-toothed kangaroos.
Oh, right. That we talked about a while back.
Yeah, but that's not even that old compared to
Yeah.
So, and then hominins?
Oh, well, we're definitely more recent.
Yeah.
Where would you put us? Ballpark? Estimate?
10 million?
More recent than that. 6.5 million. Yeah, and this is just part of the scale that I got up here. Rodent, 56 million years ago. Turtle, 155.6. Amphibians, 250. Mollusks, 550 million years old. So it's kind of an interesting timeline of life on Earth.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to be able to know when different things emerged based on what we know of molecules of DNA.
Yep.
Yeah, it says here, fossils provide the critical age data we need to unlock the timing of major evolutionary events. This new resource will provide the crucial fossil data needed to calibrate molecular clocks, which can reveal the age of plants and animal groups that lack good fossil records. When did groups like songbirds, flowering plants, or sea turtles evolve? What natural events were occurring that may have had an impact? Precisely tuning the molecular clock with fossils is the best way we have to tell evolutionary time.
Yeah, absolutely. It absolutely is. I mean, we can try and estimate the ages of fossils based on where they are in this Earth strata, what kinds of Earth are around them. We can look at different radioactive elements in the soils, or rates of decay, to be able to figure out this. It could be between these certain dates, but the molecular clock is going to be much more accurate, and that's going to be especially across the entire web of life. I think that's neat. Super neat. And if everyone's working together, everyone's going to get their clockwork all calibrated. It's great. It's good. Hey, do you know what time it is?
I think I do.
I think it's time for Blair's Animal Corner.
She loves concrete. creature, great and small. Biped, millipede, no pet animal. Wanna hear about animals? She's your girl. Except for giant pandas and squirrels. Man, I'm hopeful.
Again!
Do it again!
Do it again! Do it again! Do it again!
So, Justin, how old were those mollusks you were just talking about? About 500 million years old?
550 million years ago.
Well, turns out those mollusks had some pretty cool ideas in terms of adaptations. I want to talk about one of them right now. The newest, strongest thing in the world.
What?
So, at least biologically. It's not stuff that we've made. We've made stuff that's pretty strong, but in terms of what animals have to offer, limpet teeth are the new strongest thing.
Wait.
Limpets have teeth?
I thought spider silk was the strongest thing on Earth.
Oh, we'll get to the spider silk. Limpets. Now let me explain what limpets are first. Limpets, imagine a snail, a sea snail, that you then untwist. So he just looks kind of like those hats that people wear in the field that are just super triangular. Then there's a little snail under there, and that's a limpet. And limpets they're a mollusk, they're a gastropod, and they have something called a radula, which is basically just that they rasp things with their tongue, and on their tongue are these little serrated teeth. And it turns out those teeth that work like sandpaper to scrape stuff off of rocks, it's the strongest stuff nature has to offer.
I do not want to be licked by a limpet.
It would take a while for you to feel much, but you wouldn't want to. The teeth are only they're smaller than a millimeter, so they're not large. It really is just kind of like sandpaper, but it is strong sandpaper. So a new study took these limpet teeth, they filed them down to be about as thick as spider silk would be, and then they tested them for strength. And what they found was it's better than Kevlar, it's better than carbon fiber, most carbon fiber that we make, and they withstand the same pressures, and they use the same pressures to be created as it takes to turn coal into a diamond.
Wow. In stereo.
Wow. Yeah, so these guys, it's not surprising because limpets, they do scrape stuff off of rocks, and they actually end up excavating rock and ingesting rock. And this is my favorite part. You gotta love scientists. If you look at their fecal pellets, they actually look like concrete blocks.
What? So they're slowly rasping off this material.
Yes, they're slowly rasping off rocks, basically.
At very high pressure, and then all those little bits and pieces are getting packed together in their guts, and they're pooping out
They're
cement.
making little cinder blocks?
They're making little baby cinder
They're
blocks.
they're
making
literally-
sand.
They're literally pooping bricks, guys. Anyway. I did it. All right. So the strength on average for the tooth material was about 5 gigapascals, which is 5 times greater than most spider silk. And the strongest spider silk they have ever tested was only 4.5 gigapascals. So this is 5. So it's stronger than anything else we've ever measured. And most likely it's because of the way the material is structured. So it's all very thin strands that are laid on top of each other, just like carbon fiber.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing, of course, is going to be are going to be the material science applications. So understanding how the limpet tooth is made, how it's built, will allow us to create super strong materials that could be used for cutting, sanding, doing whatever you need strong materials to do, right?
Better bulletproof vests, perhaps.
Yeah.
So they can look at the way it's made. We're not going to make things out of limpet teeth, but we can look at how the mineral fibers are layered, and then from there we can try to replicate that. And so you gotta love some of these the social math that's in here. The strength of the limpet teeth can be compared to a single string of spaghetti holding up to, and this is the quote, 3,000 half-kilogram bags of sugar.
Why wouldn't you just say 1,500 kilogram bags of sugar?
Good question. Or you could say 1,500 kilograms of feathers, or 1,500 kilograms of anything. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe this professor likes to eat his spaghetti with sugar. I'm not sure.
Maybe
but
just
imagine,
always half kilograms. Okay.
Yeah, just imagine spaghetti holding up 1,500 kilograms.
Of something.
That's crazy.
It's a lot. It's crazy.
Well, it sounds like a lot, but in case you're not familiar with the metric system, 1,500 kilograms.
You're gonna help clarify this again, right?
Let me guess. You think 1,500 kilograms is 2 pounds, right?
It's pounds. No. It's 1.5 million grams.
True. Not helpful.
Just moving a decimal point.
That's a lot of grams.
It's a lot of grams. It's a lot of grams, especially if they're ground up graham crackers. Blair, what's your next story?
Well, last thing. I'm just gonna try to make this social math a little more accessible. So what I would say is that's like a spaghetti strand holding up a fourth of an elephant. How about that?
All right. There we go.
That's a little bit better, right? Okay, so anyway.
A baby elephant?
A baby elephant, sure. It's holding up a baby elephant. So the next one, let's talk about ant bathrooms. How about that?
Let's do this.
So a recent study looked at where ants use the restroom. And there hasn't really been any studies on that, figuring out where the ants go in their nests. And they found that actually ants use the corner of their nests as toilets. So what they did is they had these ants on a white surface in these nests, white plaster, and then they fed them food dyed with either red or blue food coloring. Then they wanted to see if it got colorful in there. And it did. In the corners, there ended up being related. If they fed them red, then there was red deposits in the corners. If they fed them blue, it was blue deposits in the corners. And so they definitely had designated areas. So now we have to figure out why. So there's a few potential ideas. One, it could be for sanitation, because they live in giant, dense communities in these nests. They just want to keep all the poop in one place. That's one.
Yeah, it can be easier to go to the bathroom inside than to have to make your way all the way out of the nest to go to the bathroom somewhere outside.
Right, because they do remove, other wastes like dead ants and stuff like that. They will bring those outside, but yeah, maybe it's just too much trouble to leave every time they have to go to the bathroom. So that could be one. The other option is that it could be related to defense. So it might dry up and they might use it as building materials. They could also potentially use it as manure for their crops. They could also use it to mark certain areas.
Right. Or there could be beneficial bacteria in it that help the colony somehow by having it inside.
Definitely. Or there could even be nutrients in there that they end up using later.
Are specifically driving the ant behavior.
So that's what they have to study now, is what happens to the waste afterwards. They have to see if they're going back to this waste to use it to build, or to use it to tend their crops, or if other animals are deterred by that stuff.
Did you just say deterred?
Yeah. I made a pun and I didn't even realize it.
So total Beavis and Butthead moment.
Did they do this multiple times, and is it always like a preferred area or sort of region? I mean, I guess so.
Yes, yeah. So they had very
So
specific
they're
areas.
hardwired for what, like, sort of part of their construction should be the bathroom? And it's
The
not
corners.
just like,
The
well, one
tendency
ant
was
went and everybody else went, oh, I guess that's where you go, and we'll just keep going there.
each time the tendency was towards the corners.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, I don't know. And then the last one, this one is just kind of silly and fun, is that cats, we know that they're a problem, Justin. We know that they're a problem, but mostly because there's the whole toxo thing, but additionally, they're really good predators, and they end up killing native species that are vital to habitats, right? And so there have been lots of kind of efforts to figure out how to keep the cats from killing these local species, especially sometimes people get cats to kill pests. So how do you keep them killing the pests but prevent them from killing the native species? So there's the latest breakthrough in that is a very special cat collar, and I'm going to screen share it right now. It basically looks like your standard scrunchie from the 90s.
It looks like a Harlequin
Yeah.
neck piece.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
very fashionable.
Oh, so fashionable. I'm sure the cats love it. So that's actually been really effective in reducing the amount of birds and lizards that these guys end up taking down. So in a recent study, they looked over the course of 6 weeks with cats that were pets, and they basically asked these owners to freeze everything that their pets brought home after it was killed. So we're not taking into account anything that happens out in the world that they don't bring back. But based on what they brought back, they saw a substantial decline in birds, reptiles, and amphibians that were taken down once they were wearing these collars. So apparently these animals, they have good color vision, the birds, the reptiles, and the amphibians, which we know because they all have pretty interesting color markings, so that makes sense that they would have pretty good color vision. Mm-hmm. And so they all responded really well to it. What's interesting is mice and rats, they were not really fazed by the collar at all. So it's interesting, I guess they don't use color vision as much as the birds, reptiles, and amphibians do. But what's also interesting is they did look at how the cats took to it, and at least according to the owners, 80% of the owners said that their cat had no problems with the collar. Another 17% said that their cat got used to it within 2 days. So apparently there was 3% that the cats could not abide by that scrunchie. But 97% could handle it, which is great.
Yeah.
So
just a rainbow cat collar so that birds will see the cats a little bit better.
Yeah, they did find that the red...
for a while. But basically all it's going to do over time is weed out the colorblind mice.
Yeah, cats are pretty much colorblind as predators, very similarly to dogs. So it's for the cats themselves, it's not an issue, but birds are very color vision oriented.
Right.
Yeah.
And they even tested the different colored patterns too. And they found that red and rainbow were more effective than yellow. So that's interesting. Yeah, but they did say also that obviously there are some areas where there are native mammals that are at risk for cats. So obviously if that's the case, you're going to want to figure out another way. They suggested things maybe like bells on your cats, then that's just going to keep them from catching everything. But if there's not native mammals that are in danger and it's really just birds and reptiles, apparently the scrunchie works pretty well.
Apparently, just put a scrunchie on your cat.
That's a good solution.
The scrunchie might be too tight, guys. You should probably get an actual
collar, special cat collar. Yeah. Don't strangle your cats.
Please don't.
These are words of wisdom from Blair's Animal Corner. Everyone, we hope that you will stay with us for a little bit longer because we have a second half of the show coming up. We have a whole bunch more science news for you. Stay tuned for just a few minutes as we have a brief break. Thanks for listening. TWIS has merchandise that you might enjoy. Head on over to twis.org to buy some of our stuff, swag, things. We now have a link on our website that goes directly to our Zazzle store. So go now to TWIS.org and click on that Zazzle store link in the menu bar to start buying now. TWIS is supported by listeners like you. Your donations pay for our hosting, bandwidth, contractors we need to hire, and fun things we try to do for the show. We appreciate any amount, $2, $5, $10, $100. You make this show possible with your donations. We currently accept them a couple of ways. First, we have PayPal donation buttons on just about every show page on our website, twis.org. Or if PayPal's not your thing, we have started a Patreon account at Patreon, patreon.com/thisweekinscience. That's patreon.com/thisweekinscience. It's kind of like a Kickstarter for media producers. You can get your stuff. You can get stuff in return for your donation. Whatever your preference, go to the website, listen to the most recent episode, comment on the show, and please make a donation. Can't afford a donation? We can always use your help to get more people listening to and watching TWIS. Use your social networks for science and tell people to tune into TWIS. That's right. Tell your friends. Bring five friends to TWIS for our 500ths. We're still in the 500s. We're going to be for a while. Bring your friends. 5 of them. Tell them to tune into TWIS. We thank you for your support. We could not do this without you. I just love that song. Every time I hear it, it makes me bounce. This is This Week in Science. Thanks for watching. Welcome back. Did you know people are getting prosthetic arms? Lots and lots of, well, not lots and lots of prosthetic arms. It's really 3 Austrian men have undergone a new technique that's being called Bionic reconstruction. Yeah, it allows them using a very specific technique. This research is published in The Lancet. Allows them to control a robotic prosthesis, a prosthetic hand, with their mind. This was pioneered by Austrian researchers, and the researchers combine selective nerve and muscle transfers, elective amputation, and replacement with an advanced robotic prosthesis. And then following rehabilitation, it actually, in all 3 men who got these prostheses, restored a very high level of function that allowed them to work in their daily lives much better. They did have to have amputation, and all 3 patients spent about 9 months undergoing cognitive training to activate very specific muscles that they would use to control with electrical signals from their mind to control this virtual hand, because it's a robotic hand. It's not it's a real hand, but to their mind, it's a little different. Anyway, it started with the virtual hand, and then they moved to the actual prosthesis. So it was months of training, a virtual environment moving to the real environment. And then within three months, they improved their quality of life so that they were able to pick up a ball, pour water, use a key in a door, cut food with a knife, be able to undo buttons on shirts. Yeah.
So these were people that had the appendage before and lost it at some point in their life, right?
Yeah, so they had a very specific kind of injury that's called a brachial plexus avulsion injury. It separates the hand from its contact to the brain and neural input. So what they were, it's a very specific kind of injury, and so they're able to use the nerves of the brachial plexus and use those to innervate this this device. Yeah, but it could potentially, this approach could be used for other injuries, for other prostheses. There really aren't any limitations to how it could work. And the brachial plexus, I'm just going to say the brachial plexus is our nerves that come from the neck and then branch off to form the other nerves that end up controlling the movement in the upper limbs, the shoulder, arm, forearm, hand, etc. Movement and sensation.
I'm wondering if there's differences in how the brain would learn to use the prosthetic if you were born without part of your arm.
I imagine.
If you've never had it, it's got to be a lot harder, but probably still possible, we would assume.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it could be possible. I think it's an interesting question, because when you don't have that or have never had that brain real estate used for that particular function, it gets taken up by other functions, by other areas. So to train it to do something that it was born and never learned to do is, I think that would be, I think that might be nearly impossible. But to continue to allow it to give back function that it had learned to do, and then maybe started to do something else because my hand's not there anymore, we're going to use this area for something else. Maybe then getting that function back is not difficult. It's kind of similar to like people who are blind or sighted and then become blind due to injury or disease, and how we're able to help them get vision back versus people who have been blind their entire lives.
Right.
Yeah, there's interesting stuff that goes on in the brain. And even though the brain is incredibly plastic, I do actually believe there are limits to how far you can push it.
Interesting. Kiki goes on record.
I'm just saying.
The brain has limits.
I think there might be some limits based on very sensitive periods during development. That's what I think.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Hey, you got a story, Justin?
I do. So there's an old saying that before you can understand another person's perspective, you have to walk a mile in their shoes. Right? You have to sort of envision life from their perspective to be able to understand where they're coming from, where their perspective on things originates. Well, this is a study in the Journal of Marketing Research from a group of universities that conducted a similar study. They say that the reality is exactly the opposite. Ironically, putting oneself in the customer's shoes makes managers even more likely to let their own feelings get in the way. Envisioning oneself as a consumer who is making personal choices causes the manager's true personal preferences to kick in. So the authors conducted 4 separate studies in which they asked marketing managers to consider a particular model of car from a consumer's point of view. 6 of the car's features were chosen for special attention, with the managers attempting to rate the car based on how a typical consumer might feel about these features. The study found that they overwhelmingly judged the car according to what themselves, the managers, wanted. In fact, the harder they worked to envision themselves as the customer, the more drastically their own preferences interfered. The effect was so strong that it trumped research they had in hand, showing what consumers stated they preferred. The final study in the series found, however, that by being aware of the problem, managers could then adjust their view back toward that of the consumer. but kind of interesting. You normally think of empathizing with somebody else's situation as giving you a more rational, separate sort of view, top-down view of a situation. But in this case, they found that attempting to think of yourself as the other person caused you to be more biased.
See, that's interesting. I would think that empathy indicates that you understand where someone else is coming from, right? So wouldn't that mean that I would understand what my customers want better?
Right.
Yeah, well, this is part of that.
Put yourself in the role of the consumer. It's you. So it's going to be your preferences as a consumer. That might not be anybody else's. And when you're sort of not directing what their preferences are going to be, it forces you to do this really hard thing for people in general, which is listening. Letting them tell you what it is, which is this is the whole thing with sales and marketing. This is why they do tons and tons and tons of market research before they start advertising a product to a particular segment, because the marketer themselves is going to have one set of preferences, and there's going to be a target audience that they don't know that they're going to find through researching and polling lots and lots and lots of people to see who generally would be more interested in this, that, or the other feature.
Right. So really what we're talking about is a difference between empathy and sympathy here, it sounds like. So empathy is about a shared experience. So you're experiencing something and you're feeling as though it's similar to what someone else is feeling. But sympathy is understanding what someone else is going through. So really what you want is a sympathetic manager, not an empathetic manager.
Perhaps. But when you're attempting to empathize and knowing what somebody else is sharing that other person's view, if you're doing it with all of your own biases, you're not being sympathetic at all. You're
right, so that's why it's different between empathy and sympathy. Empathy indicates that there's a shared feeling, that what you're feeling is what they are feeling. That's empathy. But sympathy is understanding someone else's feelings, whether or not it's what you're feeling.
But in either case, isn't your sympathy or empathy going to be trumped by your own view of what you're empathizing with?
Yeah, so this is the
and therefore again
bias issue.
You're sympathizing or empathizing based on yourself and really has nothing to do with the other person.
Proper sympathy has nothing to do with you, though.
Proper sympathy, but what's going on is that it's probably something similar to what happens in like people's perceptions of climate change research, or even stuff related to creationism or GMO foods, where you have personal biases that determine whether or not you're actually even going to believe the research that you're looking at. So it colors the way that you look at data even. And so that's where I'm seeing this in marketing very often. Like you said, Justin, you'll do all sorts of sampling and try and put together an image, an imaginary person of who your target audience is. Who is this person that you're selling to? And try and figure out what this person is like so that you can sell to them, right?
Yeah.
But if you're not listening to the data, you're going to be like, I don't really like that person. They really want this other thing.
And actually, to the point of global warming, they did there was a national study of 2,000 U.S. adults measuring the knowledge of prevailing scientific consensus on the causes and consequences of climate change.
Mm-hmm.
They also indicated whether they believed that human activity is responsible for global temperature increases in recent decades. And what's interesting, this was a study, Yale-led study published in the journal Advances of Political Psychology. The study participants were deeply divided along partisan lines, with about 50% saying they do believe in human-caused climate change and 50% saying they don't, said Dan Kahn, professor of law and psychology at Yale. Disagreement did not diminish, however, as study subjects' climate literacy test scores increased. On the contrary, those with the highest scores were even more politically polarized.
That's exactly what you would expect, though. Because, so hold on. So Yale also a couple years ago, and a couple years before that, and a couple years before that, did something called the Six Americas Study, where they looked at people's views on climate change and climate science, and they categorized them into 6 categories. And so all the way at one end was dismissive, someone who didn't believe and never would believe that climate change was happening, and all the way over here on the other side was alarmed, someone who was super on board, ready to march Washington, it's a big deal. And then everyone in the middle 4, could be swayed one way or another, basically because they weren't informed enough. So that's exactly what you would expect, that the more people know, the more they're going to make a definite decision one way or the other. If they're in the middle, that's because they don't have enough information.
But isn't it interesting that those with the most information are the most polarized?
No, that's what you would expect, because you either have someone who understands the science and understands the implications, or you have someone who understands the science but believes it's cooked data. Those are your 2 options if you understand climate science.
I suppose, but I guess it reduces that argument that we need to educate people more to solve this problem.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think
No.
all it's saying is that you need to educate people about the issue, and you also need to educate people about what science is. Because if they understand the methodology and the terminology behind the subject matter, then it works. Especially if you educate them about it away from politics. Because it's still in this climate, where climate change is a political issue. And that's really the heart of it, is that this science is politicized by our culture.
Yeah, it's part of you saying what side or whose team you're on. You're like, well, I am conservative, so I'm going to think this way, or I am progressive, and I'm going to think this way. I am anarchist, and I think this way. It's part of the story you tell about who you are. And so if someone tells you that something about who you are is not real or not right, all of a sudden you're going to go, I don't want to listen to you.
Mm-hmm.
You're attacking me as a person. That's not okay. So that's where the conversation just breaks down.
So,
But,
and this was says it. Positions on climate change have become symbols of whose side you are on in a cultural conflict divorced from science.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Completely divorced.
I'd say it's more about general science literacy. If you have science literate citizens, then when you hand them a scientific argument, they understand it.
Right, but this is the point. I mean, this is the entire point of this research, is that those with the highest literacy were the most polar opposites of whether it was man-made or not. That's what I think is fascinating, is that they say the vast majority of the people that they surveyed were actually pretty illiterate when it came to the science of global warming. Regardless of whether they believed it was man-made or not, they were still polarized on political lines. So you might believe that global warming is happening, but think CO2 kills plants. You might be on the other side and think that all scientists get paid to make up data. That's fine. That's that one entrenched, they've just bought into the political side of it, and that's all they really know about it. But what was interesting, though, is that as they became more literate, as they could answer the questions of carbon cycle and things like this, and understood what a greenhouse gas was, and then that was just the carbon, and they understood how it affects photosynthesis in plants, and they still were polarized. And in fact, even more adamantly polarized than groups below that. So it's not just a matter of scientific education.
But that's a step back from that, Justin, is there's climate science literacy and there's science literacy.
I wonder, though, if science education were to be a more important thing in school, if we taught people critical thinking skills from the earliest ages, as opposed to, promoting student body political contests from, 6th grade onward, if we didn't push polarizing cultural attitudes and really pushed critical thinking as a culture, I wonder how that would change the way that this kind of an analysis or this kind of a survey would read. I wonder if things were taught scientifically first and politics was on the back burner. I wonder how that would change everything, if it would.
Well, as long as that back burner is burning gas, I don't think we're gonna get there.
Yeah, you had another story that was related to climate kind of stuff, sea levels. Justin, what's going on there?
So this is kind of interesting. This was there was some tidal gauges looked at over 2009 2010. They had found in New York and Newfoundland there was a jump. They thought there was a spike that lasted a short period of time, where sea levels they rose 4 inches, about 4 inches. So just a higher sea level than we normally have. And this is pre-tsunami. This is pre-Hurricane Sandy. But they found that no, this actually lasted not just a couple months, but it was a few years of change, and it's directly tied to the sort of conveyor belt of the Atlantic, and they're expecting that we could actually be seeing this because of warming climate. We could be seeing this quite a bit more in the future. The team found that the current rate of atmospheric carbon dioxide is increasing, and such extreme events are likely to occur more frequently. What is interesting is that this period, this 4-inch rise that lasted for about 2 years, did not coincide with Hurricane Sandy. And had it, the results
it would have been so much worse.
Could have been, yeah.
Oh, it would have been so much worse. That would have been no good.
Yeah, you also, this research, and they were looking at sea level from Cape Hatteras to New York. Was the notable site, but they were looking at different indicators where they could go in and sort of gauge where the tide high points were over a longer period of time. And they found that 40 gauges spanning from Key West, Florida, north to Newfoundland have been recording sea level rises as far back as 1920, the 1920s. But that, 2009 to 2010 sticks out like a sore thumb for the Northeast.
Great.
So there is going to be year-to-year variation, and that's a pretty severe one.
That's a significant, yeah.
Variation is pretty intense. But if that does match up with a hurricane, and as we were reporting last week, monster mega hurricanes used to be very common in the Northeast. You put those two together, and I'm glad that all I have to deal with is a little earthquake tremor once in a while.
Oh, I'm sure we will have to deal with periodic increases in sea level, I am sure. But what we have to deal with all the time, our brains. Our brains are in our heads. Our brains create our reality.
What's our brain doing now?
Your brain is learning. Your brain is trying to create memories based on the information that you're taking in, the things you're hearing, the things you're watching. What's going on? What's happening? Researchers at MIT have been looking at frequencies at work in the brain. And so you know about action potentials. Yes, Justin, Blair?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, action potentials are, to define it, they're the basic signal of stimulation that travels from a nerve cell down its long axon to end up at the synapses and then jump across synapses to other neurons to send a message, or to muscle cells to cause contraction, or any number of things. But action potentials are the electrochemical communication signals in our nervous system. But you get a bunch of neurons together in a group, and each one of them works and sends signals and does its own thing, but they're all connected as a network. the overarching network actually has a frequency that it works at. And so these researchers published in Nature Neuroscience this week on two areas of the brain, the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, that they use different brainwave frequencies to communicate. So as the brain is learning to associate two different objects, I can't show you anything right now, but if I were to show you two completely unrelated objects, a squishy brain and my lip gloss, and I'm going to try and teach you some association between them. Right now, why are they associated? Well, they're associated because I love brains and I love shiny lip gloss. So there you go. Until your brain regions, the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex, link them, until they link them and associate them together, there are different disparate frequencies that are played in the brain. But when they get going together, the waves oscillate at a lower frequency. So when the guess is correct with the brain. So if I were to show you my squishy brain and you guessed something else, not my shiny lipstick, then they would oscillate at a high frequency. It's called a beta frequency. And when it's incorrect, and when it's correct, they oscillate at a different frequency, a theta frequency. So they have these, it's kind of like a buzz when you get it wrong and a ding when you get it right, the researchers say. It's like they're playing two different notes. The brain regions themselves, these networks of neurons, are playing different tunes for correct guesses and wrong guesses with the brain.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So this learning task, they recorded brain waves from the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex in animals as they were learning pairs of images. And they learned through trial and errors which pairs went together. And as they recorded that, they saw that the theta frequencies were there when it was an incorrect response, and then there was a beta frequency when it was correct. Or when incorrect in theta, 2 to 6 hertz, correct beta from 9 to 16 hertz. And this changed over the course of learning. And this is something that researchers think this kind of higher level network frequency is probably at play in enhancing memory and also in connecting areas of the brain. So the researchers say that the idea is that you make the correct guesses feel more correct to the brain and the incorrect guesses feel more incorrect. And you can use non-invasive electrical stimulation to actually hype up learning in the brain.
So this is also kind of, and I'm going off something totally unscientific that some random chart that I Googled on the internet. It says that beta waves are typical of a normal state of waking consciousness, and theta waves are found in high states of creativity. Kind of interesting, though. If it's an expected answer, you get that normal consciousness waking state signal.
If it's unexpected
But if it's not right, your creative brain is going, wait a sec, why isn't that right? Am I missing something? Is there a way that could be right that I'm not seeing? No. Okay. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Nah, I don't see a way that it could be. Right? Like, it's almost like part of you is like, one frequency is just like, yeah, that's acceptable. And the other one's like, I've got to think about this for a second.
Got to go back to the drawing board. There needs to be more information. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting. So the recent research in this area suggests that there are these high level, just kind of network frequencies, this hum of the brain's activity that researchers used to just think was just like, well, okay, beta is, like you said, kind of normal. Theta is creative. Alpha waves are very like relaxed but focused, like flow. When you're in flow, your brain is kind of a flow state. Your brain goes into alpha waves. And then you kind of, they're like, okay, well, this is just kind of how the brain chugs along in these different states all together. But to think that these different parts of the brain are connected and talking to each other using these overarching rhythms, that's just fascinating. That there's this higher level architecture, communication architecture that's going on there.
I wonder if it's sort of like a routing signal.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you get the beta wave and it's like, yep, okay, this one, let it on through. Let it straight through to accept it mode. We don't need to work on this any longer. And then if it sees something that doesn't recognize, it's like, all right, we're going to send this on, but we're going to put a theta wave on it. So we're going to get more eyes on it. This means this needs to get vetted a little further. We need to look at this 2 or 3 more times before we figure out what to do with it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's pretty cool stuff. Anyone have any more stories?
Ooh, I have allergies.
I'm getting those. Spring is coming.
No, I don't actually have allergies, thank goodness. But that might be due to 2 things. One, both of these studies are correlative. Okay?
Got
it. One could be from eating peanuts when you're young. Reduces the possibility of having a peanut allergy. Over 5 years, they had some infants eat peanut products 3 times a week, and some avoided them until they were 5 years old. And only less than 1% of children consuming peanuts developed an allergy. 17.3% in the avoidance group developed a peanut allergy. That means there is an 80% reduction in the prevalence of peanut allergies if you eat peanuts when you're young.
Yeah, unless there's like a genetic reason not to eat peanuts, why would you not eat peanuts?
Because
so there's now this fear that if a child is drastically, super harshly allergic to peanuts and you give it to them when they're a baby, they'll die.
Yeah.
That's the fear now. And so now there's so many peanut-free schools, probably just having peanut-free schools too makes it more likely that kids will develop the allergies. But so that's one. The other one, which I think is very interesting, especially because I don't have any allergies. I was given peanut butter as a kid. I also was raised in a house without a dishwasher. And washing dishes by hand linked to fewer allergies in children.
That's interesting.
And the idea is that putting them through the dishwasher sanitizes them so well that chances are any bacteria that might be left on hand wash plates that help build your immune system and get your body adjusted to those things, they're all gone by the time they come out of the dishwasher.
Oh, and then there's the question, if you do hand dishwash, do you towel dry or let them air dry?
Because the towel is a bacteria party.
Exactly.
Nothing like the sponge, though.
Nothing like the sponge.
Nothing like the sponge. That's true.
Is think about it. It's a moist. Air can be in there. You've got it's a dark. It's
at least there's soap on it, though.
Soap isn't an antibiotic. Soap is an anti-surfactant.
Well,
it just makes grease come off.
Most dishwashing soap now is antibacterial. But overall, people who wash their dishes by hand, their children were tied to a 43% reduced risk of allergies. Again, correlative. Again, not a huge sample size. About 1,000 children, 12% washed things by hand, 84% washed with a dishwasher. So they weren't equal sample sizes. There's lots of flaws here, but it's something to look at, I think, for sure.
Yeah. Then the question is, are they, are the 12%, are they rural? Are they urban? Does it matter where they live? Does it matter socioeconomic part of the spectrum?
Yeah. Are people at higher socioeconomic status more likely to have allergies?
Do they get outside more or less? Yeah. Our kids
also the peanut study, because I can't find it, but I'm pretty sure I just read something that found the gene which makes that's linked to peanut allergy. I wonder if those parents that were themselves allergic to peanuts refused to let their children participate in the study. Like, Like, you know what I mean? It's like we did this. We looked at ones that we could give it, and then the ones that you were like, no, you're not giving my kid a peanut, and they're the ones that ended up with the allergies. Was because the parents were like, no, we have peanut allergies in the family.
You
Their
said
older brother, older sister had it.
Justin, that's bad science. Come on. So
No,
if
no,
you
no.
said
I mean,
if you asked a family, if you asked a family to participate, they don't get to pick which group they're in.
Yeah, you do. You have parents who are like, you're going to say no. You're not putting my kid in the peanut study because we have peanut issues already.
Then you don't get to be in the study at all.
Exactly. That's the point.
No, that's not the point because the study was
in the peanut
500 families.
Study.
No, 500 families decided to be in the study, and then they were randomly assigned to be in the yes peanuts or the no peanuts. If a family said, I refuse to give my child peanuts,
then they're not in the
part of the study.
That's not in the
science.
Study. That's not science. If you were doing just a random survey of people and said, hey, people, do you feed your kids peanuts? Did you feed them peanuts when they were babies? Do they have allergies as older children, as adults to peanuts? Just a survey like that, then it doesn't matter what your personal needs are because all a researcher is doing is asking questions. But for an experiment, you can't choose. You don't get to be a part of that.
No. Justin, tell me about beards.
I can.
Is that Kiki's? It's Kiki's story?
That's my story.
Kiki, tell me about beards.
I can tell you about beards. So some researchers were looking at male faces and facial width to height ratios, and they found that the abstract from their study is snap judgments of threat based on exposure to the human face were likely maintained throughout history because they facilitated survival when encountering strangers. If an evolved adaptation, then such judgments should rely on static facial cues that are not masked by facial hair, as may have been the case for our ancestors. We show that the facial width to height ratio is not obscured by facial hair, and that it reliably and consistently cues observers' judgments of aggression, but not masculinity, in bearded and non-bearded versions of the same male faces. They took the same male faces, they put beards on them, and they had them without beards. And so, additionally, what they found is that with the facial hair, they were more likely to be judged as aggressive.
So doesn't the ability to grow a beard relate to testosterone levels?
I think so. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not sure how testosterone ties into beardability.
Well, if it's related, that would make sense, right? Because testosterone and aggression are related.
Maybe it's more like Vikings tended to have beards, so over years of being sacked by Vikings, people became afraid of beards. And when Westerners got to the Americas, they weren't very intimidated by the Native Americans because they didn't have beards.
Well, part of it, though, is that they this facial width to height ratio, beards add to it because you can grow a beard. You can grow a beard kind of wide or long. You can change the ratio of your beard, of your face using a beard, and it also masks.
Chinless.
You can be chinless, exactly. Whoa, big beard. Yeah, and so that plus perceptual ability to like see movements around people's eyes, that might allow us to extract information. But yeah, beards. And I'm wondering if this is why hipsters are so into beards right now.
Because they want to look aggressive? Oh, because they lack aggression?
Because they
lack chins.
They lack chins.
They lack chins. Well, apparently they all have a lot of testosterone because facial hair growth is regulated by testosterone.
I think that though the neck beards, I don't think that helps your aggressive potential.
Yeah, they don't help your potential with other things either.
They just look weird.
What about belly hair?
We're not talking about belly hair.
We're talking about beards.
I'm not going to talk about belly hair.
What about the belly beard?
I don't even know what the belly beard is.
That sounds like a
know what a
euphemism
belly
for
beard is?
something.
Yeah.
Hang on.
What is an extroverted brain?
Oh yeah. So this is kind of there's more than one type as discovered by science. There's basically the extroverted brain falls into two types as experienced by psychological studies has told us. There's the gregarious people persons who find reward in sharing affection and affiliation with others. They're very outgoing, friendly, social butterfly types. And then there's the more ambitious go-getters, flashing the bright white smiles in their pursuit of achievement and leadership agendas. New study shows that these overlapping yet distinct personalities have some signatures that are a little bit different in the anatomy of the brain. Yeah, so they've got what is the name between these though? I'm gonna find it. Okay, so there's the affiliative, which is the social butterfly extrovert, and there's the agentic, which is the go-getter, the agentic brain. These are the two main classifications of the extrovert. They had subjects who underwent MRI scans designed to detect the volume of gray matter in different regions of the brain. From the psychological literature on extroversion, White and lead author Eric Groden, graduate student, knew they wanted to look into the regions of interest such as the medial orbital frontal cortex, which is involved in making choices based on reward. But they also cast a broader net of analysis across the whole brain using a technique called voxel-based morphometry. So, as expected, they found higher degrees in either kind of extrovert and significantly correlated with higher gray matter volumes in the right and left medial orbital cortex, even after controlling for possible confounding factors such as age. But among the people with higher agentic, that's the agenda. I'm smiling and being extroverted to accomplish a goal, folks. They also found other regions that had significantly larger gray matter volumes. The parahippocampal gyrus, involved in learning and memory for reward. The precentral gyrus and cingulate gyrus, and caudate, involved in the cognitive control behavior and the initiation, planning, and execution of voluntary movement towards goals. And among the men in the study,
goal-oriented behavior. There we go.
Right, and among the men in the study, nucleus accumbens, which is accumbens, involved in incentive reward. So, while both kinds of extroverts had higher volumes in one key brain region, the agentic extroverts also had higher volumes in several other areas. The researchers found many of those other areas through VBM analysis of the whole brain. So the authors caution that the study shows only an association, not whether or how larger volumes result in the personality traits. It also doesn't explain whether or not the larger volumes develop. For example, when whether people are born to acquire the larger volumes associated with these extroversion territories. They can't. It's nurture versus nature. They don't know. Is it you read and reread how to make friends and influence people over and over and over again, and that makes you the goal-oriented? Or is this just something genetic and the brain is just sort of filling in the area as you exercise your personality's predetermined direction of activity?
Yep.
But
yeah. So that's interesting.
In the future,
brains of extroverts are a little bit different. Interesting. Why? Hey, you know what time it is, everyone? It's time for me to thank our Patreon sponsors. I would like to thank Kevin Donald Wesley Ballard, Paul D. Disney, Katie Volk, Sam Winzier, John Ratnaswamy, Rudy Garcia, Steve DeBell, Gerald Sorrells, Greg Guthman, Jason Dozier, Matthew Litwin, Eric Knapp, Andreas Akestad, Jason Roberts. Patrick Cohn, Shannon Tara Ginsburg, Byron Lee, E.O., Bob Calder, Jared Lysette, Ulysses Adkins, Jake Jones, Edvardus Rimkus, Nicholas Lai, Brian Hedrick, Cassie Lester, Chris Cross, Sarah Chavis, Stephen Srowiak, Layla, Marshall Clark, Charlene Davidson Henry, Don Kamarechka, Brandy Mazuka, Ed Dyer, Tony Steele, Lord Trentonian Moody, Larry Garcia, Daryl Lambert, Brian Condren, Lord Trentonian Loves Blair, Kevin Parachan, Richard Bowersox, Caleb Smith, Sal Good Sam, or that's Saul Good Sam, Matt Sutter, Emma Grenier, Miranda McKennett, Brian Rossman, James Dobson, Steve Goodwin, Kurt Larson, Stefan Insam, Michael George, Craig Landon, Russell Jensen, Mountain Sloth, Jim Drapeau, Darren Lute, Tara Payne, Alex Wilson, John H. Maloney, Jason Olds, James Paul West, Lauren Lang, Ed Bennett, Thomas Mikinen, Alec Doty, Illuma Lama, Joe Wheeler, Dougal Campbell, TMRO, Miko Pakala, Craig Porter, Adam Mishkan, Aaron Luthen, Marjorie, Paul Stanton, Scott Lajewski, David Simmerly, Tyler Harrison, Ben Rothig, Colombo Ahmed, Gary Swinsberg. Whew, this list is growing. Thank you for all your support on Patreon. If you are interested in supporting us, you can find information at patreon.com/thisweekinscience. Also remember that you can help us out simply by telling your friends about TWIS. On next week's show, once again, we'll be broadcasting live online at 8 p.m. Pacific time on twis.org/live, where you can watch and join our chat room. But don't worry if you can't make it. You can find our past episodes at youtube.com/thisweekinscience or twis.org.
Thank you for enjoying the show. TWIS is also available as a podcast. Just Google This Week in Science in your iTunes directory. Or if you have one of the mobile devices, you can look for TWIS for Droid in the Android Marketplace, or This Week in Science in the Apple Marketplace, or in the iPhone podcast directory.
You can also find us on Apple TV inside the YouTube app. For more information on anything you've heard here today, show notes will be available on our website, www.twis.org. That's TWIS.org, where you can also make comments and start conversations with the hosts and other listeners.
Or you can contact us directly. Email Kirsten at thisweekinscience.com, Justin at twistminion@gmail.com, or Blair at blairbaz@twis.org. Just be sure to put TWIS, TWIS, somewhere in the subject line, or your email will be spam filtered into oblivion. You can also hit us up on the Twitter, where we are at TWIScience, at Dr. Kiki, at JacksonFly, and at Blair's Menagerie. We love your feedback. If there's a topic you would like us to cover or address, a suggestion for an interview, a haiku that came to you in the night, please let us know.
We'll be back here next week, and we hope you'll join us again for some more great science news.
And if you've learned anything from today's show, remember,
it's all in your head.
This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science, it's the end of the world, so I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice, show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand, and all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth, and I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got one disclaimer, and it shouldn't be news, that what I say may not represent your views, but I've done the calculations and I've got a plan. If you listen to the science, you may just better understand that we're not trying to threaten your philosophy. We're just trying to save the world from jeopardy. Jeopardy. And This Week in Science is coming your way. So everybody listen to everything we say. And if you use our method instead of rolling a die, we may rid the world of toxoplasma gondii. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got a laundry list of items I want to address. From stopping global hunger to dredging Loch Ness. I'm trying to promote more rational thought, and I'll try to answer any question you got. But how can I ever see the changes I seek when I can only set up shop 1 hour a week? This Week in Science is coming your way. You better just listen to what we say. And if you've learned anything from the words that we've said, then please just remember it's all in your head. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in 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 Science.
Boom.
Goes the dynamite.
Boom, boom with the little pink frog one day. Boom, boom. I know that's not how the song goes. Little green frog. How do they go? Boom, boom with the little green frog one day. Boom, boom with the little green frog. Boom, boom with the little green frog one day. I don't remember. Something jumping off the log. Intermission. Where's the snack bar? We don't have a snack bar here. What? Hot rod. Yeah, I think Whiskey Renegade testosterone can lead more toward men losing their hair as they age. I think that there is that male pattern baldness, but beards are not included in that. So it's the top of the head for testosterone. Hair goes away. The face, beardy. I think. That's right.
Face equals beardy.
Oh, I wish I had a camera, but at the same time,
a camera too.
Yeah, at the same time, I like being able to see you guys and not having a camera. It's awesome. Is it a hedgehog or a porcupine?
It's a tiny porcupine.
There's a little porcupine. Where's right? I gotta make that. There you are. Little porcupine. It's cute.
I also have a hedgehog, but this hedgehog has a diploma for some reason. See, hedgehog and porcupine. We can do a whole biology lesson about the difference right here.
Right there. Hedgehogs go to college. Porcupines, they're the wrong kinds of friends.
You heard it here, folks.
Ha ha.
We should probably go to bed soon.
It's late. We started late. I'm tired.
And we can't see you anyway.
I know. You can't see me. Oh, so next week's show. I will not be at home.
Okay.
So, I'm going to be maybe staying at somebody's house in another town, which might be weird to do a show from their house if they're there. So I'm going to...
Next week you're talking about?
Next Wednesday.
Okay.
Might be a problem for me.
All right.
So...
Well, give Blair all the button pushing information she needs to get the show up, just in case.
Exactly.
And I'll prep. I'll be prepared with more stories.
Just a couple more.
Yeah, I'll know. I am going to say that it's probably not going to work out, but I'm good. I can try. I will try. I'm going to try.
So, Justin, just like 2 more. I'll bring like 2 more. It'll be fine.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, it won't be as good, but it'll be fine.
You guys are great.
So, yeah, as long as you remind me of how to do it all, because I always forget.
Than the 1 or 2 times, I think, in the history of the show when I've tried to do a show by myself.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's just very one-sided. And the subtangent referencing and story switching and
Did you
speculating
really
and
do a show by
ranting,
yourself?
and it just
Yeah.
it's a different creature than having one other person to bounce the stories and ideas off of, at least.
Phone them now on air and ask permission. Phone who? Whose strengths? What strengths talking
The
about?
house that you're staying at.
Oh.
Like, come on, get it
That's,
done.
that's right.
Steve Everett says my
But
dance
you know,
moves
like,
get
I-
better every week. Nice. I'll keep working. Now I know it's a thing. People are
Yeah.
somebody's watching. Now I'll get.
Ah.
Yeah. It's different though with when you're staying at somebody's house and they say it's fine and then you're there and you're like, this
I
feels
just get
weird.
it.
That's like when I tried to do it from Atlanta that time. I was like, this is weird.
Yeah, I'm just gonna wander off into this other room and I'll be here for a while. And yeah,
Being loud in your house.
exactly. Yeah.
Um,
It's fine if
so-
you're in somebody's house and they're not there. But if
So-
you're visiting somebody and yeah, it's odd. So
As far as music goes, I know I can't like do it for real, but I could probably, if you sent me the files, I could play it on my phone and like point it at the mic, right?
that'd be funny. That'd be great.
It'd be better than nothing, right?
Right. Exactly.
Okay, so I can do that because I need a mixer to do it for real, right?
Yeah, you would need a mixer
Yeah.
to do it for real.
So I'm not going to do that. So I can pretend on my phone. That'll work fine. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah. Gord is suggesting maybe a guest host. That's
I
possible.
would like. Hey, I do want a mixer. I do want a mixer that I gotta figure this out. This can't be that hard to get a mixer in between.
It's not
my
that hard,
microphone
and I can, yeah,
and
between.
the computer. I need a USB based mixer, I suppose.
Well, yeah, there are two different things that you could see. I have a USB, what's called a USB sound device, a sound card that takes the microphone inputs, but then I also have a mixer that takes the microphone, that takes an external computer input, so I can have audio from another computer. So there are two devices in between that I have.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you can have a USB sound device
Okay.
that takes a couple of microphone inputs.
This has already gotten too
that are-
complicated.
Yeah.
What I really just want is the mixer that does what the sound card does.
What do
Is
you?
there such a device? I will go buy it.
Why? What do you want to do?
Huh?
What do you
Is it for
want?
Jack feedback?
What do you want to be able to do?
So no, just that. Just you're not there, so I could like play the music off of one thing. It goes into the mixer. It
Mhm.
goes into, or if there's like sound thing I wanted to play, a sound bite I wanted to play if somebody's saying something.
Yep.
Play that, goes into the mixer, and that mixer is also what my microphone goes into, and I got the two channels there. And I can pull one up, play it, goes USBs right in to the computer. But instead I gotta have
Yep.
this other thing, and
It's really not that. It's not that complicated. But yeah. Okay. A
If
two-channel,
that
like a
mixer
little
exists,
two-channel
I wanna go
mixer
there.
and
if that,
USB.
if that mixer that just USBs to the computer and that audio goes to the computer and pretends that it's my microphone and allows me to add other stuff to it. That's what I want to go buy.
Well, and yeah, I mean, it would. If there's some
And the
cheap,
reason-
low-tech
the reason-
version of that one of us could have for when you're not here
Well,
too, that would.
Yeah,
be
and
cool.
also we could play audio like we had the singing mouse thing once. It'd be nice to have been able to play the audio direct while you're doing the story, that kind of thing. And it would be, the reason I want it not to be a sound card in the middle is just temporary, I guess, or whatever. But it's because I may be changing computers and platforms completely of computer. I might go from PC to Mac, and I'd like this thing to be able to travel between them.
Okay. Well, a lot of things can travel between devices.
I have Hot Rod says I should just Google it. I've Googled it. I haven't found one yet. I don't know if it's hiding somewhere in the interwebs where I'm failing to see it.
USB.
Ooh, Ooh. No, it's not a mixer though.
Justin, can I ask you a question?
No.
What was with the text message at like midnight about Science Island? What was that about?
Huh? Oh, I sent it to you really late because I forgot that.
People sleep at normal hours.
Well, I forgot what that because we're not in the same time zone apparently.
We're not.
No, it was. I've been doing the Science Island hangouts on Thursday nights, a little after 8, and I guess I didn't think to text you about it till 10 something.
It was only 10 something. Oh God.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
It felt like it was like
probably like
1 in the
10:05
morning.
or something. It was like right around 10 o'clock, and the thing was still going.
That's funny. Yeah, I thought it was like.
Okay. Somebody just threw in.
That's so funny.
A Mackie Pro FX 8-channel mixer. Let me go take a look.
You don't need 8 channels, but
I don't need, but that's fine. They don't really make like 2-channel mixers like that.
Yeah, they do. There is a Behringer 2-channel.
Yeah, the Behringer, but the Behringer isn't USB. So let me see if this thing.
Yes, it is with USB.
It's USB in. I need USB out.
Huh? Doesn't have USB in. What?
I need USB out.
Yeah, I know. Built-in stereo USB audio interface to connect directly to your computer.
Oh.
Also, 2-track and USB inputs assignable to main mixer phone's output. So yeah, it is a output.
There's even USB I/O in and out for recording the set. Okay, there it is. This is it. The Pro FX8. This is what I want.
What do you want?
This thing that they put in the chat. This was put in the chat room.
You don't need an 8-channel mixer. You could use it. You don't need an 8-channel mixer. It's overkill.
I like
something, but something like that will be fine. Yes.
Hang on. Hang on. Let me back up.
Oh yeah, that's what I used to use for pub quizzing. That 8-channel mixer.
Yeah, it's reasonably priced. It's available to purchase on the interweb.
5-channel mixer. 4 USB. 4 channel.
Oh, it's even at one of my trusted online audio sources for purchasing stuff, Musician's Friend.
2-channel mini mixer, $40.
Oh, and it's on sale today. All right, I'm getting it.
So you'll have it for next week, so you can be in charge of the music?
Yeah, maybe. So wait, okay, I'm looking at this. Where's this Behringer? What's it called again? I've heard of Behringer before, but I don't. For some reason, I couldn't.
The Behringer Xenex? Does that work?
Xanax?
No.
What is it? Ooh, I have this is perfect timing because I have another new toy coming too. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I have a new toy for next week. This is going to make it work.
Oh dear. See, part of the problem with you guys getting mixers is that suddenly I have less control.
Yeah.
No,
of the show, and that I don't like.
No, you're the executive producer. You're in charge unless you're not here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's like no random audio sounds in the middle of
not allowed.
a show that, unless it's planned.
I think it's fine. When we wanted to hear the singing mice,
I think it's great, and I'm happy to get
link in the show notes, and then Kiki did it, and it was fine.
Yes.
All right, I looked around. I didn't see the thing I want anywhere else. I didn't find a Behringer. I'm getting this Mackie. I'm doing it.
No, just wait. Don't get the Mackie.
I'm getting it right now.
It's like $180.
By the time this show ends, it will be too late to stop me.
Justin.
He wants to know if you need a new camera, Kiki.
I don't need a new camera. I need to figure out. I think what's happening is that my computer is forcing me to I think my computer is trying to force me to upgrade to Yosemite.
Which it's probably time.
Yeah. I just don't want to. If I upgrade, I'm afraid I'm going to lose some programs that I have compatibility, and I'm not excited about that.
But you have your laptops, right? And they won't be on Yosemite yet. Right.
No, but I have to because it's not my MacBook Air is not recognizing the camera anymore either.
All right, I'm gonna reread this again because I'm always bad about actually reading the technical information.
Mm-hmm.
So, hang on, let me do this. I don't know if
Is there like a 4-channel Mac?
Newton says I could borrow his. Thank you, but you would never get it back, and I would never pick it up.
Let's see, USB interface mixer.
Okay, let's see. USB in and out for recording shows and music playback via Mac or PC. Aha! Perfect. That's all I needed to know, right? Ooh! Remote foot switch. Oh, I can switch between with the foot switch. I keep going back and forth with different kooky voices. Robot Justin.
So here's an interesting story that someone sent me last week. There's a link between relative lengths of index and ring fingers in men and their behavior towards women.
Testosterone levels.
No, it's not that. Wait, okay. So
Men with short index fingers and long ring fingers are on average nicer towards women, and this unexpected phenomenon stems from the hormones these men have been exposed to in their mother's womb, according to a new study from McGill University.
What does this hand tell you?
Let's see. Short index finger and long ring finger. So you're not very nice to women, Justin.
That's why you get the back of my hand.
Dear.
But those men also tend to have more children.
Identity for
long ring fingers. 3. No. The opposite of you. Short index finger, long ring finger.
Identity 4 has given me the thumbs up on the mixer, and I'm clicking the buy it right now button.
What? No. Why? It's overkill. It's overkill. There is a Xenix 302 USB interface.
You can't make
Behringer. It has one mic in, and it has a line in, 2-track input, a main mix output, and it is a USB interface.
Boring.
It's like $50.
Boring.
It's perfect.
It's from some unknown brand name. Ugh.
Behringer?
Oh, you know what? 4 to 6 business days? Is that going to be enough time? Or should I, look at this. Look at this option. I can get it for free in 4 to 6 days. Or I can spend $5 and get it in between 3 and 5 business days. Now, there's some overlap there where the standard, worst case scenario, I get it in 6 days. Worst case, when I pay $5.
Identity 4, Mackie good, Xenix bad. Xenixes are stupid. Identity 4, you're not helping me here.
I'm taking Identity 4's advice. I'm going to go with the... How many business days is that, though? Let's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Show.
5 days is enough.
Yeah, I'm going to try. I'll do the express round.
Yeah, if you order it right now.
Spend an extra $5. Try to get it in time for next week's show.
Yeah.
Continue to check out. Blah, blah, blah.
So you guys need to send me
what?
Emails with receipts for reimbursement.
Receipts?
Yeah.
You think I'm going to expose myself to PCBs?
No, you're going to get the receipt from your purchase that you're doing right now, emailed to yourself, and that email, which is confirmation of what you've bought, you're going to send to me so that I can send you a reimbursement for this mixer. Right.
So for me, you're talking about the business cards and the cab fare.
Cards and the cab fare. You texted me you gave me one of your cab fare
Yeah,
receipts,
I gave
right?
you the cab fare receipt.
Yeah.
And you paid for my parking. So the business cards. I can send that to you again here. Let's see.
Cool.
Find it. Vistaprint. Vistaprint. Your order has been shipped. No, it's probably before that. Your Vistaprint order. Huzzah. Justin, I have your business card still. What?
Hot rod. Oh, can I buy one too? I'll email my receipts too.
All right, Kirsten, I have emailed you a receipt.
Awesome.
Which one you want your Kirsten at thisweekinscience.com?
Yes. Yep. That's the one.
But I didn't put TWIS in the title because
Yeah, I don't. How do I?
place to do so.
I can. Yeah, Gmail doesn't let you put a subject line in. I don't understand.
What?
Can I keep shopping? What? Wait.
No more shopping.
Identity 4. More suggestions.
shopping.
What else should I get? What else am I missing?
No. Okay. So what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen is what I'm probably gonna do is give you guys disbursements of cash, and then you can spend it on whatever you want.
Huzzah!
That's much easier.
And that's easier, and then I don't have to worry about it. But
Yeah.
I like it.
My spending won't compete with will outcompete the budget of the actual show.
exactly, and I'm not getting involved in that.
Yeah, that's a slippery slope.
So I'm working on the budget, and the budget is going to allow a certain amount per each of you, and that's what you'll get.
Hooray!
Hooray! Yay!
Hooray! Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I have to go to bed. I'm being loud in the house, and it's past 10 o'clock. So.
Oh yeah, your roommates hate you.
I hope not.
I'm kidding.
So maybe with that allotment of cash, I can either rent a studio or
Right.
soundproof the walls.
Identity 4. Wait, what? Yeah, don't get the Motu. You don't really need it. Okay, you guys. Yeah, I need to go. I need to go to sleep and get.
What's
I
a
know.
Motu? Oh wait, now I gotta go look at this. What's this?
I don't miss my face. My face is fine. I get to see everybody's faces except for all of you in the chat room. But then I never get to see you guys. Oi, all y'all. Yeah, we'll be in touch about next week. Show doc. I'll alter the show doc.
Ooh, I want a Motu. What does it do?
Probably to remove myself and to increase
I've got rack
for you
space.
guys. Don't get a Motu. You do not need that.
But I've got plenty of rack space.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not paying for that. All right, everybody who's up late in the night, look at us having financial conversations on the air. That's always fun. Oi. All right. I'm going to go. I don't really want to go, but I'm really tired, and Blair's really tired. And okay. Good night, everybody. I'm waving
I'm not
right
tired.
now.
I can stay up. Why don't you hang out with me?
Click.